Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I'm Bilal and this is Bilal Reads, and today I'm here to talk to you guys about this book right here, and that's Legendary by Stephanie Garber. And for those of you who don't know, this is the sequel to Caraval, which came out last year. And I don't know about you guys, but I feel like Caraval was one of the most hyped up books that has ever been released because so many different booktubers are talking about it. I've seen so many like promotional campaigns for it on like YouTube and Twitter, and a lot of Bookstagram posts were about this book. And when it was released, I feel like a lot of people like didn't like it, like because I don't know if it was because it was so hyped up that people had all these expectations for it. But I would say that, in my opinion, I thought the reaction to this book was very mixed. And I read it, I picked it up, I bought it, as you can see here, and I actually enjoyed it. I like didn't mind it. It had its flaws, but for a YA book that was compared to The Night Circus, which in my opinion was an excellent book, it held its ground. Like, I actually enjoyed it. And so when this book came out right here, Legendary, I pre-ordered it. I made sure of that because I actually wanted to read it. So once again, this book might have this review will probably have spoilers. I will warn you before I get into them, and continue watching. This book, Legendary, follows the sister of our main character from Caraval, Donatella. And I feel like Donatella really got the short end of the stick in Caraval because she was just there, like, she was more of like a plot point, like a motivational device for our main character, who was Scarlet, her older sister. And so I feel like she was kind of disserviced till the very end, but even then we got like a barest of glimpse into like her mind and everything. And I feel like the author, Stephanie Garber, took that into consideration because this book focuses mainly on Donatella, which I absolutely loved from the get-go. She has a very distinct voice that's so different from Scarlet's. And that, for me, that was an excellent change because, you know, for me, this book, like, is so much better than Caraval, and I think that was the main reasons why. Because we had, like, a new voice to the series that brought their own perspective and point of view. Donatella, we learned at the end of the very first book, made a deal with this random stranger who was like, if I can't get you to Caraval and save you from your mother, you have to do something for me, and you can't forget that. So this book, we learn that this stranger is willing to reunite Donatella with her long-lost mother if they can get Legend's real name. So that's basically where this book picks up. That's the new quest that we have to do. And one thing that I thought was interesting about this book is that, like, as soon as this, like, Caraval ends, they get ready for another night of Caraval. And for those of you who haven't read the first book, Caraval is this, like, magical circus carnival thing where things get super realistic, super scary. All the actors take up the roles and they fully become the character. And you're thrown into this game of clues where it's the game of 5 nights. Each night gives you a specific clue to obtain something. And so, in the first book, Donatella was kidnapped by Legend. Scarlet had to find her. That was the plot. This book is completely different, and it's so much better. Let me start there. So, this book, basically, Caraval is going to happen again. This time it's happening because it's the ruling emperor, what's the name? The queen of the Meridian Empire, which is where this book is set. The queen, it's her birthday. She loves Legend, so they're doing it, which is super rare because normally Legend happens once a year, and now it's happening within like a month of each other. And so this book takes us to a completely different location because, as from Caraval was set on a tiny island, and this book takes us to the capital of this empire. And one of my major flaws with Caraval was its lack of world building, because we're just thrown into this island and Scarlet immediately tries to find her sister. And I just wanted to learn more about this world, and that's something that I feel like Caraval lacked on. Stephanie Garber really showed up for this book because we learned so much of this world. Like, the world building in this book was so much. It's what I wanted from Caraval, because we learned about this world. We learned about how this world was came into being, how Legend and all these characters that we know from the first book are where they are. And we do get updates from Scarlet's story in this. Obviously, we learned that her and Julian, who was her love interest, things aren't happily ever after, which I also thought was unique. And so this book, this is where I'm going to get into spoilers, so stay tuned. So the one thing that I loved about this book was, as I said, Donatella, but the world building. So we learned in this world, there's these ancient gods called fates that used to rule. They're kind of like tarot card characters, but Stephanie Garber did her own twist on them almost. They used to rule this world, but they were banished by this witch hundreds of years ago. And for those of you who remember Caraval, Legend got his powers from this witch. She was the witch who granted him his powers. And she did that by giving these ancient gods, the fates, by taking half of their powers collectively, giving them to Legend. So Legend's super powerful. And in this book, we learn that one of the stranger who's been messaging Donatella, is one of these fates who's managed to escape. He's the King of Hearts. And he is super cruel. His kiss is to die for, all those plot points, blah. But this book could have fallen into so many tropes that fail, like, in trilogies, because I think there's going to be a third book that suffer from second book syndrome. That's what I like to call it, where the second book is kind of boring and is just like a placeholder. But this book kind of just like takes that aspect and spins it on its head. So the King of all hearts, his name is Jack. He's actually the heir to the Empress's throne, and Donatella pretends to be his fiance to get access to the castle, and he's automatically like, okay, and then he kisses her, and it turns out his kiss is fatal to anybody but his true love. So like Donatella's kind of fucked because she's supposed to die at the end of Caraval. She doesn't get it, but then we learn that, plot twist, Donatella is his true love because she made his heart beat. But guess what? She's in love with Dante, and Dante is in love with her. So this book had like the love triangle aspect, like it was there, it could have been done more, but Stephanie Garber was like, we're not doing this. And one thing I loved was even like the King of Hearts, Jax, was like to her, he was like, I don't love you and you don't love me. So I don't know if like the trilogy will have like a love triangle aspect. The finale, which is literally called finale, will have Dante and like Jax competing for her heart. Probably not, because Jax isn't a good character. In this book, one thing that was a major big reveal was who was the Legend? Who is he? And we learned in Caraval that Julian is the brother of Legend. And so this book, that entire like mystery of who is Legend, was actually really well done. I was really intrigued by it because Donatella is so invested in Dante. It raises the stakes even more because we still aren't sure if Julian is Legend or if Dante is Legend. So it was like that big twist is whoever is Legend, like either Scarlett's relationship with them is going to be ruined or Donatella's. I'm not going to tell you who Legend was yet because I don't want to spoil it for you guys. But this book, super well done. Excellent world building. The characters were much better. This book being told from Donatella's point of view probably saved it. Because if we had to hear from Scarlett's point of view, I probably wouldn't have hated this book. And I don't mean that because Scarlett's like... Actually, no, I'm just going to say it. Scarlett was a boring character. She's too cookie cutter good to be any fun. So that was one of my main problems with Caraval. But this book, because Donatella is kind of the opposite. She's a rebel. She's a go-getter. Like, she's just fun to watch and like see the adventures she gets into. So I absolutely like this book. I would recommend it for people who were iffy on Caraval. It's a step up. And so yeah, thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, thank you. Please subscribe and let me know your thoughts if you read this book and if you liked it or disliked it. So thanks for watching, and once again, I'm Bilal. This is Bilal Reads, and I'll catch you in my next video.